what we've learnt from Brexit is that people who like him are never, ever, ever going to admit that they were wrong. So even though 100 and God knows how many thousand people will be dead by the time we get back to normal, even though every single lockdown and loosening has been a pig's ear of procrastination and prevarication, even though by most available international comparators he has provided one of the worst pandemic responses on the entire planet, when we finally get back to normal, a significant swathe of the population will be giving it the old, good old Boris, he saw us through. And they just will. And it doesn't matter how frustrating or dishonest or daft that is, it's just a statement of political fact. It is what happens when you have a personality cult in Downing Street. When we finally get back to normal, people will tug their forelocks, doff their caps, extract their little flags from wherever they've been inserted and start waving them furiously in tribute to the magnificent Prime Minister who has led us through this storm. I'll give you an example. I'll use the Brexit example. So the Nissan deal that was announced this week, right? God knows how much money we've given to Nissan. An enormous cheque. The sort of cheque you only used to see on the front of local newspapers when a local football team had raised money for a local charity, and they'd bring in a big cardboard cheque about 8 foot wide, and there'd be a photograph on the front of the Kidderminster shuttle of somebody shaking hands with one of the players. They'd given Nissan an enormous cheque. And do you know what? What one of the owners of Nissan, you may have missed this, you may already know it. So here's a gap, right? Here is a mystery owner that owns, I think, I'm going to get this right, 15% of Renault, and Renault owns 46% of Nissan. So we've given them a ton of money, taxpayers' money, in order to persuade them to keep this plant open up north. And that mystery owner is, ladies and gentlemen, the French government. Funny, you probably didn't read that in the Daily Telegraph, did you? Or the Daily Express or the Daily Mail? The French government. We're now giving money to the French government to keep a car plant open in the northeast so that they can pretend that Brexit is not the pig's ear that everybody honest knows that it is. So don't tell me that when we finally get out of this mess, people aren't going to turn around and go, good old Boris, yay! Unless, of course, even perhaps if you have buried a loved one. I mean, such is the nature of a personality cult. So that's what's going to happen. And that's why you have to hope it works this time. You have to hope, even though he is betting against your wishes, all your worldly goods on this ludicrous, reckless gamble, you have to hope it pays off. And there it is. So shall we recap on yesterday's press conference? I think first we'll hear from the Prime Minister himself.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
I'm so sorry. I've no idea how that happened. That's not the Prime Minister at all. Utterly irrelevant to the conversation we're having and bears no resemblance whatsoever to the attitude currently being adopted by Boris Johnson. Here's the real clip.
I think that what we're trying to do is move from a universal government diktat to relying on people's personal responsibility.
Relying on people's personal responsibility. Boris Johnson. I can't just ask one of his wives what his record's like on personal responsibility. I mean, he hasn't taken personal responsibility for any of his marriages and currently an unknown number of children. But hey-ho, you keep telling us about how important personal responsibility is.